What if I told you that most of the biggest decisions in your life were never really decisions at all? That long before you chose your job, your dreams, or even your definition of success, a hidden system had already narrowed your options. You were told you were free, but freedom, as it turns out, is not evenly distributed. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most powerful forces shaping human lives, a force so normal, so accepted, that most people never question it. And once you see it, you will never look at success, failure, or fairness the same way again. We live in a world obsessed with motivation. Work harder, think positively, never give up. These messages are everywhere: books, podcasts, social media, schools. And while effort matters, there is something much bigger working silently in the background, something that effort alone cannot defeat. It is called structural advantage. Structural advantage is the invisible framework that determines how much effort is rewarded and how much is wasted. Two people can work equally hard. One becomes successful, the other barely survives. Not because of character, not because of intelligence, but because the system responds to them differently. Let us start with something simple: time. In some countries, people work 8 hours a day and can still afford housing, food, health care, and vacations. In other countries, people work 12 to 16 hours a day and still struggle to survive. Same human energy, same exhaustion, completely different outcomes. Why? Because time is valued differently depending on where you are born. And this is not accidental. It is designed. The global economy is structured like a ladder. Some people are born several steps higher than others. From that position, even small effort moves them forward. From the bottom, massive effort barely changes anything. But we pretend the ladder does not exist. We tell people at the bottom to climb harder, while refusing to acknowledge that some steps are missing. Now let's talk about education. We like to believe education is the great equalizer, but access to quality education is not equal. In many parts of the world, a child's school depends entirely on their parents' income, not their curiosity, not their potential. A brilliant mind in the wrong location may never be discovered. Meanwhile, average talent in the right environment receives endless support. This creates a dangerous illusion. We begin to believe that success proves superiority and failure proves weakness. But in reality, success often proves access. Now let's go deeper. One of the least discussed factors in global inequality is legal identity. Something as simple as a passport. A passport decides where you can travel, where you can work, where you can invest, and where you can escape to when things go wrong. Some passports open almost every door. Others close most of them. This means freedom itself is assigned at birth. You don't earn it, you inherit it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The world praises globalization, but restricts human movement. Money moves freely. Corporations move freely. Products move freely. People do not. Because if people moved as freely as money, the global system would collapse. Wages would equalize. Cheap labor would disappear. So borders remain strict, not for security, but for economic control. Now let's talk about something even more invisible: narratives. Every society teaches a story about success. In some cultures, success is framed as destiny, in others as divine reward, in others as pure hard work. These narratives are powerful. They shape how people blame or forgive themselves. If someone fails, they often think, "I'm not good enough." Rarely do they think, "The system was not designed for me to win." This internalized blame keeps people obedient, because a person who blames themselves doesn't question the structure. Now look at history. The richest countries in the world did not become rich in isolation. They benefited from colonization, resource extraction, cheap labor, and geopolitical advantage. Yet modern success stories rarely mention this. Instead, wealth is presented as a moral achievement, and poverty as a personal failure. This framing is not accidental. It protects existing power. Now let's bring this to the individual level. What does this mean for you? First, it means your struggles are not imaginary. If you feel like you're working hard but going nowhere, it doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. It may mean you're playing a game where the rules were written against you. Second, it means motivation alone is not enough. You need strategy. People who succeed disproportionately are not always the smartest or the hardest working. They understand systems. They position themselves where effort multiplies. They choose environments that reward their skills. They reduce friction instead of fighting it. This is why location, network, and timing matter more than most people admit. Now let's talk about technology. Technology is one of the few forces capable of breaking structural barriers. The internet allows talent to cross borders without visas. It allows ideas to compete globally. But even here, inequality persists. Access to fast internet, language skills, digital literacy, and stable infrastructure still determines who benefits. Technology does not remove inequality, it shifts it. And finally, there is one last layer: psychology. Living under constant disadvantage changes how people think. It narrows risk tolerance. It shortens time horizons. It makes survival the priority. When people are criticized for lacking ambition, we ignore the cost of being wrong when you have no safety net. Risk is a privilege. Failure is affordable only to those with backup options. So when we talk about success, we must talk about safety, because dreams grow where failure is survivable. The truth is uncomfortable. The world is not fair, but it is predictable. And predictability creates opportunity. Once you understand the hidden systems, you stop chasing motivation and start designing leverage. You choose skills that scale. You build assets instead of only income. You think globally, even if you act locally. You stop asking, "Why is life so hard?" and start asking, "Where does effort actually pay?" This shift does not guarantee success, but it gives you something more important: clarity. If this video changed the way you see success, share it with someone who feels stuck. Because the most dangerous trap is believing the system is fair when it is not. And if you want more content that exposes the hidden structures shaping our lives, subscribe to this channel. Not for motivation, but for understanding. Because once you see the game, you can finally decide how to play it.